here's a number one thing to avoid when you're in family business. And it's simply doing things unofficially. It's doing things without legal and written agreements. You know how many times I've seen families fall apart, businesses fall apart because they haven't had written agreements. Now, I know that when you're working with family, that there's this unsaid rule, or sometimes it may even be said that, hey, look, we're family. We don't necessarily need anything written and official done by a lawyer. But the majority of cases, I would say 90% of the time, when I've worked with family businesses and when we worked with family businesses, when there has been a conflict or a challenge in family business and there is not a legal agreement, a legal binding agreement, the problem gets 10 times worse. It gets that much bigger because now you don't have a way of resolving. And funny enough, what ends up happening is if you don't have things in writing that both people or all parties have agreed to, people have their own perspectives of what the agreement really is or was. And this is why one of the things that happens in courts is the courts say, okay, did you know what you were signing? Here it is written in plain English that these are the terms and you signed it, which is basically saying that you knew what you were getting into. And so both parties, if you don't have it in writing, this is very common because this is how the human brain works. There's always different perspectives and everybody has a different perception of how things went. And our brain is designed in such a way that our memories are not fully accurate. In fact, and a lot of times they are very inaccurate because what ends up happening is when we think of a memory, we actually combine it with our current situation. So it's not like you're replaying a DVD. You're taking that DVD and you're overriding it with the information and the feelings and the emotions and the situation you're in today. So you're actually combining and creating a new memory. It's not exact. Why do I want to share this with you? It's because it's very important because you may be in a situation or get into a situation where you believe you are 110% right. And based on your perspective and perception, you may be, but it might not be accurate because that's how the human brain works. And the same goes for the other person, the other party that you're having a conflict with. And so they may have some other perception coming from a different perspective and believe that they are right. Here's something to remember. Our brains, for us, our realities are our reality, meaning that what we believe to be true is true to us. And everybody believes things to be different based on their own perspective of reality. So you can't blame someone else for believing or thinking something completely different unless you have it in writing. Again, first things first. You are very likely to get into a situation where things are challenged, where you get into a conflict in a family business, especially the bigger the family business gets or the longer or more sustainable the family business gets. So if you're into business a year, you may not have a lot of conflict, but if that goes on to 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the chances, just by sheer timelines, the chances of you going through a family conflict increase. And so at some point in time, you are going to face a conflict that needs to be resolved. And if there is no legal agreement, you have nothing to go back on. You just have people's perspectives, people's words, and they are not always accurate. And no one is going to win as a result of that. So I want to save you that hassle. I want to save you those problems and those challenges because family businesses fall apart. Families fall apart as a result of this. But if you can go and have some kind of agreement and say, hey, look, both you and I agreed to this. I know we're having a conflict today, but you and I agreed to this based on these terms. We should be on the same page now. And the other person will look at it. And even if they don't think it's fair, at least it's in writing. And they don't have anything you can say, go back on and recreate. It's all there in front of you. So both parties are more likely to act more fair when there's something written down. And families can be saved as a result of this. So just if I use an example, my brother and I are in family business and we have some kind of a conflict and there's no agreement between us. Well, the chances are that our relationship may fall apart. But if we have an agreement, chances are we say, we're having conflict here. We had an agreement, even though we're not 100%, in agreement with the resolution, but we had an agreement. Chances are we may be able to save our relationship. And you may be able to save your relationship as well. And then it gets down to the level of the family business. Family businesses fall apart because a lot of the agreements are not put in writing. And things go to court. Things go to the tax agency. You'll be surprised how many things or tricks people play when things aren't going their way in families. People will call authorities. People will call organizations and rat them out. So when you have things in writing, you're more likely to avoid those messes as well. I know there is an upfront cost. I know that there's some time, there's some negotiation that's needed, perhaps some even mediation that's required upfront for you to have some kind of a written agreement. But you need to have that, because here's a principle that we go by. If you put the time and effort in upfront to do something, it may cost you 1 unit of energy, but you don't, and it goes to the next stage and there's an issue, it costs you 10 units of energy. And if it goes from that stage to the next stage, let's just say if it escalates from going to a lawyer with legal letters and then it goes to court, then it actually costs 100 times. I'm going to say units. It could be money, could be time, it could be energy that you could have avoided just by doing the agreement in the first place. If you had some kind of a legal disagreement, you know what I'm talking about here. So don't go down the path of believing that nothing is going to go sideways in your family business, so you don't need any agreements, or you want to save money up front. Don't do that. Save yourself a lot of time, headaches, family relationships, and money, and basically your family business. You could be saving it by having agreements up front before you have any challenges.